Roger was hiding a big secret. Quite literally big, albeit not very well hidden. Even so, casual readers may miss this, but there's actually a gigantic egg on the Orojackson, containing what is assumed to be an equally as colossal creature thing. I should say that the egg itself is subject to a little bit of inconsistency, as the first time we see the Orojackson is in chapter 19, better known as the chapter where Buggy deep throats a pineapple. And this chapter itself is probably subject to the most inconsistencies of any in One Piece, such as Roger's crew not knowing how devil fruits work, Shanks and Buggy being depicted as much older than they actually were at the time, and of course there is no egg aboard this here pirate ship. And the first time we see the Orojackson in its final design form is in chapter 0, during the Battle of Ed War, where it comes equipped with its now trademark mystery egg. Chronologically, this is our first sighting of the egg. The only visual evidence we have preceding this is Oda's sketch of the Orojackson fleeing God Valley from volume 4 billion, and whilst a vague egg shape is visible, this really could be anything. Yes, it could be an egg, but it could also be a not egg. In fact, it could even be an oversized Among Us character. Meanwhile, the last time we chronologically see the egg is chapter 968. And the sad thing is, this would mean that Roger never got to see this egg hatch, because in this chapter he disbands the crew, and in the background we can quite clearly see the egg, still sitting there thoroughly unhatched. Also, when the crew drop Kozuki Oden back home to Wano for 5 years of naked dancing, followed by an hour of excruciating boiling, it's a bit difficult to make out, but yes, you can still see the egg on board. What became of the Orojackson after that is currently a mystery. Assumedly, Silver's Rayleigh would have been left in charge whilst all the other crew members decided what they wanted to do, where they wanted to go, etc. But someone had to take care of the egg. But why? And how? And also where? And in fact, let's just use all of the question words, including what. After Shirahoshi was revealed to be the ancient weapon Poseidon, there was a wave of vigor, insisting that within this very egg could be another ancient weapon creature, this time Uranus, the as of yet unseen sky weapon. Also, this video is sponsored by Factor, delicious dietitian approved meals delivered straight to your doorstep. I personally love cooking, but I don't have the time for it. I'm far too busy making videos about fictional pirates, as you know. But that's no reason not to make sure that you're eating well, because Factor is here to solve all of your problems. Well, not all of them, I have a lot of problems, but Factor, look, it solves a big one. With Factor, you can skip that ever so time-consuming trip to the grocery store, as well as all of the chopping, slicing, dicing, prepping, sprinkling, stirring, and washing and scrubbing and cleaning, and basically you can skip everything except for the eating, which is the good part. But also, it's eating with both peak flavor and the quality nutrition that you need. You can choose from over 34 weekly flavorsome packed full of deliciousness, fresh, never frozen meals, ready to eat in a mere 2 minutes. Not even 2-minute noodles are ready to eat in 2 minutes. They're frauds, I tell you. And these Factor meals are several orders of magnitude more goodlier than them. Just head to factor75.com or click the link below and use code GLR50 to get 50% off your first Factor box. And I'm gonna repeat that because look, this is a good idea. That's factor75.com and use code GLR50 to get 50% off your first Factor box. So do that thing, but for now it's back to you, me. After Shirahoshi was revealed to be the ancient weapon Poseidon, there was a wave of vigor, insisting that within this very egg could be another ancient weapon creature, this time Uranus, the as of yet unseen sky weapon. This is primarily because in chapter 0, Golden Lion Shiki offers to form an alliance with Roger after hearing that he has found the location of one of the ancient weapons. So at this stage, Roger did know where at least one of those weapons were, which we know cannot be Poseidon, primarily because Shirahoshi hadn't been born yet. And the Roger pirates found the Sky Island poneglyph, revealing Poseidon's location after Kozuki Oden was recruited. And the Battle of Ed War took place about a year before that. So that leaves us with two possibilities. One of which is Pluton, a very interesting idea, because at this point, Roger had not yet been to Wano. And theoretically, he never did go to Wano, actually. He just did a bit of a sail by so that Oden could give their poneglyph a bit of a rubbing. However, there is a chance he'd know the weapon was on Wano if he'd read the Alabaster poneglyph, which he may very well have done by this point, because when we do the montage of Roger retracing the One Piece journey, Alabaster never came up. And this could be because it was one of the poneglyphs they found prior to recruiting Oden. However, our newly deceased King Cobra never gave any indication that he was familiar with Roger, nor will he in the future due to the being dead thing. Although we do have one indicator of a potential connection, which is that we see a shot of Cobra reading the newspaper announcing Roger's death with a figure who looks to be a fully grown Vivi, but is in fact her mother, Nefertari Titi. And Cobra goes on to say, oh no, bad things are gonna happen now. I mean, I'm paraphrasing, but it is implied that Cobra was more on the Roger sympathizer side of things. But given that the Roger pirates assumedly found all of the poneglyphs, we would have to believe that Roger found and read the Alabaster poneglyph as well. And given that Cobra is a D, he probably would have been quite accommodating. So the weapon Shiki is referring to could be Pluton, and that may be how word eventually spread to Crocodile, who Mr. zeroed in on Alabaster as a source. That, or Roger could have found the location of Uranus. And if this weapon was some sort of, I don't know, egg creature, and if it were in a situation of some danger, then it may have been deemed the right decision to bring it aboard to protect it. And thus, without knowing, Shiki could have been staring right at the ancient weapon he was looking for. So the idea would be that the egg contains a creature of flight, like a big old bird or a dragon. Although this idea has become less popular recently, with the revelation of Emu's weapon that destroyed Lucia. It may very well be Uranus, and if not, it certainly has the power we've been told that ancient weapons are capable of. So maybe instead of an ancient weapon, it's more of a modern weapon. The egg doesn't have to be anything so epic though. Not every mystery in One Piece has a profound, world-shaking solution. Like when we finally got the answer as to how Kaido had been captured so many times, and it turned out that it was just because he got very hungry every now and then. So there's a lot of other options left to explore as well, such as the egg was his way of flexing how good he was, sailing the Grand Line without getting the egg cracked. I kind of love this. The idea that the whole thing was just a challenge. I mean, you've already sailed the whole Grand Line on multiple occasions. So this time, you know what? We're going to do it on hardcore mode. We're going to speedrun the Grand Line, and we're going to do it without cracking this giant egg. It's ridiculous, but so is One Piece, and I could see it happening. Egghead, Dr. Vegapunk. So due to the association with eggs, Vegapunk now comes up a lot in this conversation. And the idea here is that Vegapunk was trying to create artificial creatures, which he did successfully do. In fact, he had a whole series of dragons. The one we know of most is Dragon number 13, created to guard Punk Hazard. And whilst we don't know exactly what year that was, we do know what day that was. Because according to his Vivia card, Dragon number 13's birthday is on the 3rd of June. Vegapunk also created a smaller dragon who I don't think was ever named or numbered. In fact, I think it was literally introduced as Vegapunk's dragon (small). But the existence of Dragon number 13 implies that there are at least 12 other dragons that were made, and perhaps one of these dragon eggs ended up on Roger's ship. I like the idea that the egg would later grow up to be Big News Morgans. So weirdly enough, this would mean that Morgans was actually a human born from an egg because he uses the Tori Tori no Mi model albatross. It also may or may not work, mostly may not, because Morgans was already several decades old by the last time the egg was spotted, which it is quite literally spotted as well, which leads into the next fantastic idea. Pegasus! The spots on the shell remind me of Pierre, and I think it's a creature we've already seen before. Kinda. So this is a super obscure theory. But because the egg has dots on it, and the popular idea is that it's a flying creature, people have proposed that this egg contained Pierre, Garnfall's Pegasus. Pierre is actually a bird who ate the Uma Uma no Mi and can now become a bird-horse hybrid, aka Pegasus. So Garnfall did meet Roger, and Garnfall even referred to Roger as his, quote, pirate friend. And I guess the idea of the Pierre egg is that it hatched. Then the crew discovered that it was a flying skybird, which actually I say skybird. I think almost all birds are technically skybirds, and took him back up to Skypiea to live with Garnfall. And according to what we've seen in the manga, which is practically nothing, this could be true. However, the anime tells a different story. The anime expanded on the crew's time on Sky Island, including meeting Garnfall, and standing right beside God himself is the ever-loyal Pierre. So sadly, the egg cannot be Pierre. But instead, maybe it can be Shirahoshi. I'm not changing my mind, so you can try to prove me wrong. Challenge accepted. So the egg existed during the Battle of Ed War, which was 1 year before the Roger Pirates went to Fishman Island to hear Charlie's prophecy about the Mermaid Princess. And then, after being congratulated on the news of his future child, King Neptune stated that he wasn't even married yet. And look, it would be quite the royal scandal for the king to give birth to the ancient weapon Poseidon out of wedlock. So unless Neptune and Otohime were having excessive premarital fish intercourse in secret, and then I suppose gave Roger the egg so no one would be suspicious of a giant mermaid, it feels very unlikely. Perhaps there's a chance though. I mean, probably not. Perhaps there's a chance though, because this reminds me of a bit of a weird line of dialogue. In the flashback, one of Neptune's guards specifically labels Otohime as being, quote, seductive. So maybe there's more to her than we know. Because I don't know if seductive is the word that I would have used to describe her. But what probably seals this deal is that Roger, just before leaving Fishman Island, states, don't worry, we're not coming back in the future to kidnap your hairy daughter. And if the egg were Shirahoshi, then they would have effectively already done that. I'm starting to think Oda is just messing with us with that egg. One Piece will end never once mentioning it, and Oda will be asked about it just for him to answer, what egg? That would be pretty funny, actually. And from that moment on, all future printings of One Piece will remove the egg. But also, I guess in the spirit of the idea, not every mystery needs an answer. Sometimes it's better to leave lingering questions. But with that said, we have more answers. Okay, but what if it was just a dinosaur egg they stole from that dinosaur Dinosaur Island, and Roger just wanted an omelette. So an egg taken from Little Garden maybe. So this is a very interesting thought, because Shanks does seem to know Dory and Broggy, which means that either the Roger pirates or the Red Hair pirates have landed there in the past. And my thinking was that's why the first thing Broggy asked for was ale, because no matter which crew it was, they are incredibly heavy drinkers. So in return for large, potentially staggering quantities of alcohol, they were gifted an egg, maybe containing a T-Rex or some other delicious sort. But then the question would be, what took Roger so long to eat it? So I don't think this is it. I think it either needs to be something more meaningful or something significantly less meaningful. What if it wasn't a real egg, but an add-on to his ship? Alright, that's a possibility that's genuinely worth exploring. What if this whole time the egg is actually just another room on the ship? Something designed by Tom to give the Ajaxen a bit of aesthetic flair. Sort of like the dome room at the back of the Thousand Sunny, which I believe is called the observation room. The weird thing is that the egg doesn't have any windows. So maybe it was some sort of treasure storage, a nest egg of sorts. Hence why it has no windows, because we don't really want to be advertising what's in there. Or it could have been food storage for whoever the chef was, which, if I had to guess, I would say Moon Isaac Jr., because he looks the most French and therefore the most culinarily cultured. The more I think about it, the more I really love this idea. We've been speculating for well over a decade about this egg, and it could all just be part of the ship's facade. The Ajaxen Vivia card does state that it's an egg, but it doesn't state whether or not it's specifically a real egg. And let's be real, the people who wrote these cards probably don't know for sure either. We've definitely seen weirder ships, and not only that, we've seen weirder ships that are food themed. Going back to something like the Queen Mama Chanter, there's a whole room on that ship designed to look like a birthday cake. To be fair though, the egg on the Ajaxen does look a bit more in the way, as if it was just plonked there because it was the only space that could hold it. But I'd be pretty happy with an answer like that, because every mystery in One Piece is either some big colossal revelation, or it's a hilarious slice of nothing. Another example that comes to mind is Momonosuke's Devil Fruit. The online community speculated for close to a decade on exactly how it was defective and what that could mean for the story going forward. And as it turns out, it was just because Vegapunk couldn't get the color right. But let me know what you think the Ajaxen is in the comments, and then go click another video because you probably haven't finished doing the dishes yet.